Hello, and thank you for joining us. It is 10 o'clock Eastern. I'm Ana Cabrera reporting from New York alongside my colleague, Jose Diaz-Balart, with our special breaking news coverage today. For a man with a lengthy and varied history of high-stakes court battles, this will be a legal saga unlike anything Donald Trump has encountered before. The former president has now been federally indicted on 7 criminal charges related to his handling of classified documents. NBC News has confirmed that one of the charges is related to the Espionage Act.
For his part, Trump has denied any wrongdoing.
They can't stop because it's election interference at the highest level. There's never been anything like what's happened. I'm an innocent man. I'm an innocent person.
Ahead in our special coverage, our reporters and guests are standing by to break down what this all means moving forward, from the legal battle to the 2024 race to our country itself. When you talk about the Espionage Act, it's so broad.
Yeah.
What exactly is it?
Yeah, people have a sort of a conjured image of a spy providing secrets to another country, a U.S. adversary, and that's certainly a way it could be used, but it's broader than that. And in this case, all you need is someone who has the unauthorized possession. It means they shouldn't have the documents in the first place, to willfully retain them, and so they know that they have them. And in this case, having taken documents from the White House after he's no longer president, having them in Florida, not in a classified setting, that is enough to have a charge under the Espionage Act. You don't have to have provided them to a foreign government or anything like that, just merely retaining them, and in his case, being asked to give them back repeatedly and not having done so.
Walt Nauta was kind of Trump's butler and body man, and I know from my own reporting that he gave a couple of different stories to investigators about whether he moved certain boxes of documents at Trump's behest, such that the FBI and the Justice Department thought that he lied to them.
Walt Nauta was, more than a valet. Those of us who've covered the White House know he was the body man. He was the Navy, the military aide who worked so closely, laid out his clothes, packed his clothes, helped dress him if necessary, brought him his foods, his documents, and was one of only 2 people from the White House who went with him to Mar-a-Lago and stayed with him. This is a very close, confidential aide. So if there were things said, things moved, potentially, that's why it's not surprising, let's just say, that Walt Nauta, Garrett, was involved in this alleged conspiracy, right?
No, I think that's right, Andrea. And Donald Trump has a long history of this, where he kind of brings somebody up as a body man, a personal aide, an assistant, a fixer, and they move with him from stage to stage in his life, whether it's someone like Michael Cohen, who kind of worked with him in the business world, then in the transition to politics, or the Calamari father and son team, who had worked on his security detail and then in management of his company. This is not unusual for Donald Trump.
And in the last hour, NBC News has confirmed that Judge Aileen Cannon will be assigned to oversee his case. You may remember that she initially oversaw the handling of classified documents, issuing decisions favoring Donald Trump that caused months of delay for prosecutors after the Mar-a-Lago search. Decisions that were ultimately overturned in a scathing ruling by the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals.
Could it be more than Walt Nauta and Donald Trump? Absolutely. We have seen some reporting that among the charges here is a conspiracy charge. You only need 2 for a conspiracy charge, and sometimes you don't even need that. You can have an uncharged co-conspirator. But certainly there can be additional participants to any conspiracy to obstruct here. And we know from public reporting that there were other participants along the way and helping Donald Trump either wittingly or unwittingly conceal documents from first the National Archives and then the FBI and the Department of Justice.
If he decides that this is so beyond the pale that he's going to overrule it. So to do that...
The indictment has been unsealed. We're just being told, so we're waiting to get that information, and we'll get the details for you in a second. Sorry to interrupt. Tell me exactly the key things you're looking for in this indictment once we actually physically get it.
I have it in front of me. You want me to read a little bit from it?
Please.
The grand jury charges that at times material to this indictment on or about the dates and approximate times stated below. Defendant Donald Trump was the 45th president of the United States of America. He held office from January 20, 2017 until January 20, 2021. As president, Trump had lawful access to the most sensitive classified documents And national defense information gathered and owned by the United States government, including information from the agencies that comprise the United States intelligence community and the United States Department of Defense. Number two, over the course of his presidency, Trump gathered newspapers, press clippings, letters, notes, cards, photographs, official documents, and other materials in cardboard boxes that he kept at the White House. Among the materials Trump stored in the boxes were hundreds of classified documents. The classified documents Trump stored in his boxes included information regarding defense and weapons capabilities of both the United States and foreign countries, United States nuclear programs, potential vulnerabilities of the United States and its allies to military attack. Wow. And plans for possible retaliation in response to a foreign attack. The unauthorized disclosure of these classified documents could put at risk the national security of the United States, foreign relations, the safety of the United States military and human sources, and the continued viability of sensitive intelligence collection methods.
There are some boxes here that are shown in the indictment, and it says here in number 25, from January through March 15th
it's these.
of 1921.
I mean, you can see the voluminous nature of this, that they have the goods and the receipts. This is an indictment with about 50 pages,
just
49.
to point out
got
what
these photos.
What this is stating, that they sat out in the white and gold ballroom at Mar-a-Lago, in which events and gatherings took place. And this is a picture that Ari is holding of those documents.
Yeah, and there are more and more of these throughout. We're going to go through this live. I can tell you that from looking now at what we have with the indictment is the charges of retention, conspiracy, withholding the documents, corruptly concealing the documents, and the false statements, which we've reported on. So this is, we're going to go through it, and Andrew will weigh in, but this is a pretty maximalist version of these charges. It's a very, very voluminous set of counts. You've got a bunch that are stacked, and you have a narrative in here that has names. I see Lawyer One, I see Nada, which we reported today as the co-conspirator. So when you look at this being a documents conspiracy really against the United States, you have not only the physical and visual evidence of it, but now you have a narrative, you have a storyline with testimony.
The allegation that he showed classified material to people not cleared to see it and is charged with that crime, that's a huge deal. We didn't have that reporting in our understanding of the charges so far today, and that's a big deal because it's one thing for, Trump's enablers and defenders will say, so what if a former president had documents that he was authorized to have when he was president and they were sitting in Mar-a-Lago and no one saw them, no foreign government, no foreign adversary. But when you show classified documents to people who weren't cleared to see them, that is a breach. People have gone to prison for a long time for doing that. It happens all the time. It's more than just taking them home and squirreling them away.
Jack Smith has made a determination. This whole story about these things having been classified in my mind is something that he can prove did not happen.
Well, and one of the first things Kate read, it could put at risk the national security.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean,
so
they were pretty clear in the beginning that this is not just he had the documents. He has the documents, and he showed them to people. And oh, by the way, they could put us at risk. They show our vulnerabilities. They could put our alliances at risk.
And they're national defense information and classified. I mean, it's very bold.
There's a storyline in here that is just really damning. I mean, I'm processing this in real time, but just reading from this, it says, after Trump Attorney 1 confirmed he was finished with his search, this is where they've actually gone inside with contemporaneous documentation of what the DOJ alleges was a crime committed with the furtherance of attorneys. Trump asked, quote, according to the DOJ, did you find anything? Is it bad or good? Trump and Attorney 1 then discussed what to do. During that conversation, Trump made a plucking motion. Trump Attorney 1, quote, he made a funny motion as though, why don't you take them with you to your hotel room if there's anything, quote, really bad in there, pluck it out. And that was the motion he made. That evening, it goes on to say, Trump Attorney 1 contacted the DOJ and requested an FBI agent meet him at the Mar-a-Lago Club the next day so he could turn over responsive documents. This is the outlines of an attempt by now federal defendant Donald Trump to get other people to, you're already on record, you're already facing the subpoena process, you've already been caught lying. Now, would you, according to the DOJ, and he'll have his right to respond, would you pluck that out if it's, quote, bad, AKA, criminal contraband, and just continuing this narrative.
And take to your hotel room.
Take to your hotel room, which is not a skiff, to say the least. I want to read some more from this because we have so much new material. With regard to Katie's point that Donald Trump has long avoided texts and emails, but he hasn't stopped everyone else from using them on his behalf. And so here you have January 13th, 2022, the DOJ here reading from page 19 says, Nada texted Trump employee 2 about Trump personally, quote, tracking boxes, stating, quote, he's tracking the boxes. More to follow today on whether he wants to go through more today or tomorrow.
One thing that's very clever is look at the time period that's charged. It's from the date of the grand jury subpoena that was served until the date of the search. In other words, they're not dealing with the archives and what happened with all of that. That's going to be useful. But this is, in terms of the obstruction, it's from the moment you get a grand jury subpoena that says turn over all documents that bear classification
So had he done it
markings.
then, this case would have never been brought.
Or at least these obstruction piece.
And this is what distinguishes him from any charge that it's the same as Biden or Pence, as far as we know about Biden.
Absolutely. As far as we know, there is just no sign whatsoever that either Pence or Biden obstructed justice. And this is chapter and verse in real detail. And it's going to be from his lawyers.
A big part of the detail being that there seemed to be stuff everywhere. You read it, a ballroom, a bathroom, a shower, Then going back to Nada on page 13, on December 7th, he found several of Trump's boxes fallen and their contents spilled on the floor of the storage room. So then he takes photos of them and sends them to another Trump employee, including visible markings of classified information.
They say, quote, Trump attempted to persuade Trump attorney 1 to hide documents from a federal grand jury. Then the conspiracy. 2, Trump and Nada misled Trump attorney 1 by moving boxes that contained the classification markings so that Trump attorney 1 wouldn't find the documents and produce them to a federal grand jury. I'd love, Andrew, for you to walk us through that because it seems devastating to me. That brings us back to here. Again, that's the allegation, and they were hiding them. They were saying the stuff, the drugs, the contraband in this room, we're going to hide it first from our own lawyers and then from the feds.
This prosecution was authorized by Merrick Garland. They can try to hide behind the fact that it's the special counsel. The special counsel made the prosecutorial decision, but ultimately this is a prosecution that is authorized by the Attorney General of the United States, who is Joe Biden's appointee in an election cycle. Okay, and then finally, Katie, you are onto something.
Robert Ray,
yeah, Katie, you are onto something.
It was, excuse me, sir.
Yes.
When it was authorized, it was not an election cycle. He was not a candidate. And the fact is,
he's a candidate right now.
He's a candidate right now.
Right, and the prosecution was authorized as of Monday, when they gave the defense lawyers the last clear chance to avoid an indictment. So the prosecution was brought while former President Donald Trump is a candidate for the office of President of the United States.
Mr. Ray, do you have any evidence that Merrick Garland or Joe Biden specifically authorized this indictment?
No, the president has said that he did not have any role to play with regard to the prosecution, and I take him at his word.
Reading the indictment, Nicole, I was struck by the simplicity of it structurally. This is not a case where we need to wait for somebody to flip, where there's no Alan Weisselberg character out here who we need to find out how much they're going to tell prosecutors. There's no opaque question of intent that we need to wait to see if prosecutors have some access to. There's no, contingent second crime that elevates these things to a more serious thing. All things that we've seen in other serious cases involving Trump and his business. In this case, this is straightforward. What they're laying out, it's an accusation. It is not a conviction. But what they're accusing him of is that he was not allowed to have this stuff. He knew it, and he had the stuff anyway. And that's it. And so I think it's a readable indictment, which is a service to the American people, particularly the first half of it. You could read out loud and everybody would get it.
You're going to say all these lawyers and all these employees just suddenly decided to be anti-Trump, even though they're their people? So this is a real problem for sort of I would say sort of the honest Republicans who want to really react to this in good faith.
Yeah. Here comes Special Counsel Jack Smith. We're going to pipe down and let everyone listen to him on this historic day.